How can founding teams effectively incorporate user feedback to refine their products during expansion, refine their marketing or messaging? I would love to kind of understand how much new customer research you need to do when you start entering a new geography. And if you can share any examples from your experience where your user feedback significantly impacted the product direction during expansion.
Good question. It's one of the easy things to do with when you expand into new geographies is you can always get some users, right? I've always been a great believer that if you can get one or two people using your product somewhere, then probably you can 10x that or 100x that by just responding to what is it that is interesting about our product by you who are now using it in X country. What can we do to understand how we can make that more functional for the rest of that community in let's say in learning in that region or what have you? That's a core principle. So congratulations to all those ed techs who have users outside of their core geography, because the opportunity then is to go and spend some time listening really carefully as to why those people are using your product. And sometimes it's not for the reasons you think, right? So they're using it to solve different problems. And I think that's interesting. So that's step one, right? Is pay attention to those outlier communities and then start thinking about, let's say, if you want to grow in that particular space. I'll just say LATAM right now is like a really dear to my heart place in education and ed tech, because it's always been considered an emerging market or emerging space for education and ed tech, but in fact it's actually quite innovative and leading now. And I think it's a really interesting space to be for ed tech companies to be looking at. And lessons that we learned early stage back at GeoGebra is we would see some spike in use in new locations, and that was way back in the day, and we were seeing them in certain countries. I'll now name, say, Colombia was one where we started seeing a real spike in users, whereas we'd already really established ourselves in Argentina and Brazil, some of those big geographies in Mexico, so that was already happening for us. And then all of a sudden we started seeing some use in Colombia. So why was that going on there? So it really then became a matter of a reach out. So we followed that really clear formula, which is how we thought about our community. And then as we just found the people who were using it, we talked to the schools or the government leads that were exploring this opportunity. And we started understanding the very specific needs of that region. And then coming back to something we talked about earlier in this discussion today, is that our core principle was say yes to what it is that they're looking to achieve. And we'd go away and see if we could figure it out. And sure enough, of course, you can solve any problem if you put your mind to it. And that was really our process. And with that example, Colombia was one of the fastest growing regions for us for a while and still remains one of GeoGebra's like big power user regions because of some early adopters that we really paid attention to and thought about how we can adapt the product. And that's everything from localization, certain specific supports for, say, government deployment, if that's happening, whether schools have very specific needs around what the feature set might look like. So it's all of those kinds of components. Yeah, that's how we take that sort of practical approach to geographic expansion.